Am I the antagonist for calling my dad an asshole and saying he can never say I was put first again? This has been 6 weeks of a fight now, and I need to get some perspective on this, specifically what I said to him about him being an asshole. 6 weeks ago, a friend of mine sent screenshots that my stepmother posted in a stepparents group on Facebook, where she had said this is why age doesn't mean anything with stepkids, and in that group, she posted an old piece of homework from 2nd or 3rd grade where I got very emotional. My mom died when I was 5, Dad was remarried about a year at the time of the homework being written, but we were asked to talk about who the most important people were and why we loved them. And in said homework, I had talked a lot about my mom and how she had been important to me because she loved me and always made me feel safe. And how my dad had replaced her and expected me to replace her with my stepmother, and how sad it made me, but he was still the other most important person in my life. That is just a basic synopsis of what I wrote, but it was very emotional and little kid written. I remember my teacher calling Dad in to speak to her at the time because she was concerned. I remember talks with my dad and all that stuff. He told me how he hadn't replaced Mom and how much it hurt my stepmother to read that because she loved me and she was hurt that she wasn't mentioned as one of the most important people when I had also mentioned Grandpa from Mom's side and my grandma from Dad's side. Anyway, stepmother posted that homework in that social media group, along with some comments to others about how I had been so young and how it was a slap in the face. Then my dad was chiming in and saying how he'd felt so bad for my stepmother and how bad I had acted to write something like that. Stepmother said it was like some kids don't accept that the adults are the ones who know what's best and that if you're loved as a kid you should love the adult back as a parent and all this stuff. Dad was agreeing with her. They kinda ranted about how I still don't call her mom even though I'm in my 20s and a mom myself now. I was so pissed. Dad had always told me I came first and he wanted me to know that he would never think badly of me for not thinking of her as my mom. But then he blasts me along with her and shares something that was pretty personal and showed a lot of my pain back then. And to put that up to shame me and to make a point about stepkids. I confronted him. Because her role I care less about. But as someone who prides himself on saying he puts his kid first, I felt he was being a hypocrite and an ass. He didn't like me saying that and told me I was never meant to find out and freedom of speech is a thing. He also said all my old homework is fair game for sharing since it's technically his, as my parent. He told me I had no right to attack him over private stuff and he should be allowed to vent. Am I the antagonist? Your stepmom is trying to retroactively score points against a grieving 8-year-old? Gee, I can't imagine why such a charming individual never came to be seen as a mother figure faced with rolling eyes. She sucks, and your dad sucks for gassing her up instead of recognizing how utterly insane it is to be posting a child's homework from 20 years ago. NTA. Nta, he should be allowed to vent. What about when you vented, shouldn't you be allowed? That's some messed you old bull. You were little, had a traumatic experience, and they shoved this other person at you. ABD, expect instant bond. Am sorry for your loss. NTA, for your sake, and your kids, go low or maybe no contact. These people used your grief as a child to sham you to strangers. They shit talked a grieving child pouring out their raw emotions. These are not good people. Neither your father nor your stepmother had the right to post your writing onto any website and make comments like that. It shows also that your stepmother has never tried to understand the loss you went through and how she could love you and you could love her, but she could never replace your mother. It shows a lack of maturity, sensitivity, and that she wants to be felt sorry for. The fact that your father backed her up and even added his own 2 cents worth are a betrayal of his promise and commitment to you, both as a child and now as an adult. He is TA. The moment they posted your homework online, it was not private anymore. Am I the antagonist for forcing my father to pay child support? My father is a dick. When he got my mother pregnant, he wanted her to quit her job and just stay home to be a good little wife and mother. He is very well off due to a trust fund and he doesn't really need to work. My mother refused and divorced him. Because of a prenup she got very little and he moved back to Europe. His parents never knew about me, and my mother had a good profession, and I never really wanted for anything. My grandmother and grandfather, her mom and dad were awesome, and I got to spend my summers exploring the wilds of Western Canada with them. My father never paid the child support he should have. Like I said, it did really matter. My mom makes good money, and she gave me a great life as a child. So the point of this post. I'm F28, getting married. I met the love of my life, M31, at university, and we have been together for 8 years. He is a wonderful person, and he really is my lobster. Sorry, Friends reference. His family is from the same city as my father, and they are a huge rambunctious bunch. Because of a lot of intermingled business and personal relationships, my parental grandparents found out about my impending wedding and me, I suppose. They have been in contact and want to come to Canada to meet me and my fiancé, who I guess is a grandson of an acquaintance of theirs. Small world. When they found out that my father had basically abandoned me to fend for myself in this world, this is honestly how they see it, they were pissed to say the least. It is very funny because we are decidedly upper middle class here. So long story short, they had their lawyer calculate the amount of child support my father should have paid with interest and the cost of my post-secondary education. They then gave me this as a gift. What I didn't know was that it came out of my father's yearly draw on his trust fund. He is furious because it is obviously a sizable amount and it will very much affect his finances for at least the next 2 years. He may need to, get a job. He has been contacting me and telling me that his current wife and children will be negatively affected if I don't give him back this money. I don't really need it. And I guess I am entitled to it, and I am getting a trust fund now as well. But I really want to pay off any debt my mother may have and make sure that when she retires she can do whatever suits her fancy. I'm not giving it back. Am I the antagonist? Edit, to answer some common questions. 1. My half-siblings will not really be affected. They have trust funds set up already and their tuitions and fees and stuff are covered. 2. My grandparents' family sets these up when a kid is born. One of the reasons my father is upset is because since he didn't bother to tell his parents about me, they did not set this up. They have since taken a good chunk of his trust fund and used it to set mine up. Realistically, the principal being separated 28 years ago would have left him in the exact same position. 3. My mom was working on getting her PhD so she could help kids with a certain condition. That is what he wanted her to walk away from. 4. My grandparents have sent me pictures of my family there. The coolest thing is that my grandfather looks like the granddad from The Parent Trap. 5. My mom never remarried. But she has had a special friend since I was 5. He is amazing and taught me to swear in Colombian Spanish. Edit numero dos. I just had lunch with my mom. Apparently she has no debt. Like at all. I guess she did literally write the book about the treatment for the kids she works with. She does okay for herself. I never really thought about it. We decided that what would be best is to set up a scholarship for people who want to go into her field of study. Since I am now a trustafarian, I can afford to do this. I am, however, going to book her and her friend a trip for after my wedding. And I am going to go pay off my car. Definitely not the a-hole. My favorite is these ones where the karma bus drives by to collect the dickheads. It's a comfort that the rest of your paternal family don't share this entitlement of your father. NTA, your grandparents won't accept it back anyway. It's your grandparents' money to use however they wish. They've decided to gift it to their grandchild and not their lazy-ass son. Tell him this is between him and his parents. NTA, imagine abandoning your own daughter only to call her years later to beg for money. A dick and pathetic. Give that money to your mama. Your dad didn't do the right thing. Looks like his parents are pissed that he was an ass and robbed them of a grandchild. No matter that you didn't grow up in poverty, to them you were betrayed by their son. They will be incredibly ashamed of it. The bigger draw of anger from them could likely be that they did not get to see 28 years of your life, 28 holiday mornings, 28 birthdays, a million little moments that could have been shared even if from a distance. As for dear old gamete provider Dearest, he made this problem for himself and can get himself out of it. All the best, OP. Hope you take a chance to explore the rest of the family. Am I the antagonist for laughing in my mother's friend's face when she told me to go to my room? I, 25F, don't speak to my mother, like at all. I had to go to my mother's house today to pick up an important document that I left behind when I moved out 7 years ago. As soon as I got to the house, my mother suddenly had a massive emergency and realized that it was apparently her friend's funeral today, and she completely forgot about it. I couldn't help but internally roll my eyes, as there is always some drama, hence why I have gone no/very low contact. She asked me if I would watch my 2 younger brothers, 7 and 11, whilst she went to the funeral, and I said absolutely not, as it's my only day off, I have plans, and I have no relationship with them due to my mother stopping them from seeing me for years. I just wanted to get my birth certificate and leave. My mother asked her friend if she would babysit and asked me to stay for 10 minutes until her friend came. I didn't even get the opportunity to say no before my mother left the house. I was seething but resolved to wait 10 minutes. My mother's friend turned up and started berating me for not agreeing to look after my brothers whilst my mother went to the funeral. I said I don't have anything to do with my mother, it's my day off work, and I'm under no obligation to look after anyone else's children. My mother's friend then told me to go to my room. I laughed in her face and started to leave the house, and she asked me where I was going. And I told her, my room, at my apartment, that I pay for with my big girl job. Because I'm an adult, not a child. And don't ever speak down to me like that again. And I left. My mother has left me loads of messages and missed calls saying I'm an AH for the way I spoke to her friend. I do admit I look kinda young, but I still am not happy with the way my mother's friend spoke to me. Am I the antagonist? NTA the audacity to try and send someone else's adult child to their room. I would have laughed too. I may be TA because my mother's friend didn't know me and may have genuinely thought I was a minor, as I do look very young for my age. It really wouldn't matter. You're not the a-hole now, and you'd have been not the a-hole if you had been a minor. She had no business speaking to you that way regardless. The fact that adults can quite often get away with behaving badly towards children because children don't usually have the ability to do what you did here doesn't mean that their behavior is good, it just means they can get away with it. She behaved like an arse, and you spanked her. NTA. I actually quite admire your refusal to get drawn in. You haven't talked with your mother a lot or seen your own brothers in 7 years ever since you've moved out. You are effectively living life on your own, only coming to get important documents upon which your mother randomly thrusts responsibility onto you, which you have not agreed to, then leaves the home, and after 10 minutes you are then berated not by your mother but her friend like they have any right to parent you, and they then treat you, a 25-year-old adult, as their own child. That's literally insane. Am I the antagonist for locking the door to my home so my husband's friend couldn't come in? My husband's friend has been living with us for about 6 months now. When my husband presented the idea to me about him moving in, I was hesitant, but he was determined to get him out of the streets. Fast forward to preset day, his friend got a part-time job at FedEx and quit a couple of weeks ago because he didn't like how his supervisor was talking to him. He does not contribute anything to our home, doesn't help cook, clean, or watch our children. Our oldest girl keeps an eye out on our toddler more than he does. He'll go in our office and spark up some weed no matter how many times I tell him and my husband that he needs to do that outdoors. Yesterday I hit my breaking point. I wasn't feeling well as I had a migraine. 3 of our kids had dentist appointments. I don't know about you guys, but getting kids out the door can be challenging regardless, let alone when you're feeling sick from your head pounding nonstop. I go outside with our kids to see that my car was gone. He took my car to go smoke with his coworker. My husband was at work. Furious wasn't the word to describe it. I immediately went back inside and tried to call him. No answer. I then called my husband, where he sighed like he was so annoyed with me and said he would call him. I tried explaining to my husband that I'm at my wit's end. We have 6 kids and I get no help from him or his friend. He sleeps on our couch and doesn't even fold his blanket up in the morning. My husband proceeds to tell me that I'm overreacting and that I need to calm down. I ended up locking my front door and refused to open it until my husband got home. However, when he got home, he didn't try to come inside. He took a picture of our door, went on Instagram, and told the world, "Have you ever been locked out of your own home?" I lost it. I feel like I've been more than patient and I can't do it anymore. I don't get help or basic respect in my own home and I'm constantly gaslit. My husband has a history of getting extremely angry and scary, so I told him he needed to wait until our children were asleep in bed before coming in, as I was afraid he'd come in irate, lashing out in front of them like before. Aita for how I handled this. Update: so I contacted the base nearest me and was granted a MPO. Military Protection Order, for those who aren't familiar. It took a couple of tries to get a hold of someone, but when I did, I fucking sobbed while trying to summarize everything that's been happening to me. She said he will not be allowed to come home or contact me until the investigation is complete. She was extremely nice and sympathetic with my situation, so that gives me slight hope. This is the second biggest step I've ever taken in regards to getting my kids out of here and ending my marriage. The first was locking the door yesterday. I don't know where his friend is, but I put his shit out my house late last night and told him to come get it. It was gone when I woke up this morning. I can't describe how terrified I am at the unknown. I'm going to change the locks to the doors within the next 24 hours. I'm also going to sit my kids down tonight and explain why I did what I did and come up with a game plan. I can't begin to describe how thankful I am for every single piece of advice, well wishes, links to resources, even the tough love I received from everyone today. All of it is appreciated, honestly. It's extremely scary not knowing what tomorrow will bring, but it's amazing to know that I have a bunch of internet strangers rooting for me. My husband has a history of getting extremely angry and scary. Han, you are in an abusive relationship. You need to get help and to get out of this situation. Call a divorce lawyer. That's the most important thing right now. NTA, but I am seriously concerned about your safety. NTA. First of all, your husband's friend stole your car. If you have the car registered in just your name, I would file police report. Second, I would tell your husband that he either gets his friend to move out, or you and the kids go. I would advise finding somewhere you can take the kids for a bit, maybe a relative or a friend's home, in case your husband decides to take his anger out on you. If you are ready, I would think about seeking a divorce attorney. You and your children do not deserve to live like this and be treated like this, and it is clear that your husband does not care about the well-being of you or your children. I am so sorry you are going through this. It seems as though your husband feels as though his friend is more important than your family, which is not okay. NTA, but I hope you realize your husband is an even bigger problem than the leeching loser friend is. I would comment back on his post that a home is a place you contribute to and help pay for, and he has done none of that, so it's not his home. I still can't believe people allow friends and family to live with them under the guise of helping or temporary when it never ever turns out well. Just go check all the Am I the Antagonist on that subject alone. Good luck, and again, your husband is the bigger problem here. If this was just a one-off argument and you locked the door, my judgment would have been different, but taking into account everything you've been dealing with and the nature of how your husband acts, I think you did the right thing. Something needs to change. You should not be afraid of your husband or worried about how he's going to act when he's upset, especially when there are children in the home. You are not being treated with basic decency and respect. Your update sounds like you have taken the first steps to getting a better life for you and your children. Am I the antagonist for not helping my sister with her IVF solely because of her husband? My 34 female sister, Meg, 31 female, cheated on my ex-brother-in-law, Josh, with his best friend, Liam. They did it for over 4 years until Josh found out and broke up. Liam and Meg have been officially together for 5 years. My ex-brother-in-law has been my best friend since elementary school, and my sister knew him through me, and despite my saying it would make things uncomfortable, she insisted on hitting on him until he noticed and they started dating. My relationship with Meg took a toll on me because I was annoyed with her for doing this to my best friend, but we never cut contact because of my nephew, her son with Josh, and my godson. 1 year ago, I received a large amount of money, inheritance, and because I have a good financial condition, I decided that half would go to help my parents and siblings. My parents received 50% and my siblings 4 to 12.5% each. My parents decided to renovate the house. 2 of my brothers paid off their house debts. My another sister asked if she could pay for her IVF treatment with her girlfriend with that money, and I said yes. At no time did I control how they wanted to spend their money. Well, Meg was super happy with my help and talked about paying for her IVF with Liam, his infertility, and I hesitated. I'm still best friends with Josh, and I can tell you what they did with him caused years of therapy to get him to start thinking about dating someone. I don't talk to Liam 99% of the time, and I only help my sister because after all she had my nephew. I didn't go to the wedding, and I always made it very clear that it wasn't a relationship I would support, but they are free. So I told her that I didn't feel comfortable giving her the money for this as it involves Liam, her and their relationship specifically, so I'd rather help in some other way, renovate house, pay off debts, refurbish the house, and that I would take double care that the money didn't go to that. She started screaming, telling me to get over something that had nothing to do with me, and that was years ago. And that I was treating her and my other sister differently because of the past. We argued a lot, and I decided to create a fund for my godson that only he could handle at age 18 instead of helping her. Well, this created even more mess, because she claims that I helped everyone but her and that I was cruel in denying helping her to have another child when they can't naturally. I really don't feel comfortable doing this. Am I the antagonist? By the way, they didn't receive this inheritance well, I'll put it here. They told me about the plans, I didn't ask, just because they were excited, after I told them at a family dinner about the money. I said you can renovate your house, pay your debts, and my other sister asked if she could use it for something else, IVF, on another day. So Meg found out he talked to me before I gave any money. NTA. It's your inheritance money, you get to choose what to do with it. I think setting up a fund for your nephew is a brilliant idea. If she wants another kid so bad, she can go cheat on Liam. NTA. I don't like that she is saying that what she did to Josh had nothing to do with you. It had a lot to do with you. She met him through you. Dated him against your wishes when you expressed concern. Then proceeded to be a god-awful human being to him for 4 years when she could have just broken up with him. She showed no concern for his feelings, but also none for yours. This situation could have easily made you lose your friendship with Josh. She ended up with the guy she really wanted to be with and seemed to still be able to maintain her relationship with you, so at the end of the day she did something terrible and still feels entitled to a super happy ending. This is a great time to show her that actions have consequences. Honestly, she's lucky you're not Maynard, because if it was me I would have used some of the money to do something extra nice for Josh. Not the a-hole. Okay, so you are treating your 2 sisters differently. So what? One of them didn't put your best friend through the ringer. The money is yours. You could have chosen to keep the money. You could have given it to Josh, an art museum, or the local animal shelter. Meg doesn't have any say in what you do with the money. If she really wants another child, she could try adoption. Honestly, you've been more than gracious with your sister. I'm not sure I would have still had a relationship with her after what she did. I can't stand cheaters. It's your money and you decide who it goes to. Ordinarily, I'd say that you can't dictate how someone uses the gift, but this is unique circumstances. You'd be paying to further hurt your best friend. I think you are in the right here. Your moral imperative outweighs everything else here. Am I the antagonist for not letting my Cousing get married in the family summer house for free? Okay, so I am looking for outside opinions here. I can preface with the idea that I don't think I am an asshole here. My partner, however, thinks it's a difficult situation and thought this would be a good idea, since she lurks here all the time and a lot of the responses are good. Also not native English speaker. So I am 28-year-old woman, I am gay, important to the story. Now my mother is a single mother. She comes from a big conservative Christian family. My mom was easily the black sheep. She had me at 16, which in itself was a big issue for my grandfather. We lived with my grandparents until my mother at age 25 came out as gay. That was the limit for my grandfather, and he disowned my mother, and my mom cut all contact with her family. Now my grandparents were rich, not extreme, but they had a lot of money. Especially a big summer house, I say that, but it is a really big house with beautiful scenery next to a beautiful lake. It was laid down by my grandfather's father and has since been improved upon and renovated. It has been somewhat of a family retreat where all my uncles, aunts, and cousins visit regularly during the summer. I visited twice when I was younger and I loved it. Sadly, when COVID hit my grandfather and my mother sadly passed away. Now this made my grandmother reach out to me, and I liked that. She wanted to make it up as much as she could. Sadly, last year she passed away as well. She left token sums to all her children and grandchildren, but in compensation she also left me the summer house. I made it into an Airbnb, and I've been making a lot of cash from it. Obviously, this made the rest of my family furious because they could no longer visit during the summer, prime season. But again, I don't know them or my cousins. Here's where I might be the asshole. My aunt reached out to me the other week telling me, not asking, that her daughter had planned to have her wedding there next summer. She has been dreaming of it since she was a child, and apparently it's the designated family wedding spot. The house has been hired out for weddings before, since there is room for a venue and lots of rooms for guests to stay over. Now I told my aunt that was not possible because the week she wanted to have her wedding was already booked, but I said if she wanted a different date she could put down the deposit for what I charge for a wedding and book a different date. Now she was furious and asked if I was serious in actually charging my family to have their wedding there, and I just said I didn't know them, have not met them in person since I was like 6, and yes I would because weddings bring in a lot of money. Her family has been blowing up my phone and social media calling me an asshole. So am I the antagonist? NTA. It's yours. I'm guessing the aunt could have reached out at any time before your mom passed, yet didn't. You don't owe them anything. NTAs, like you said, you don't know them. You sure won't know them when they approach you wanting something for free after years of no contact. Don't set the precedent to their entitlement. NTA. You absolutely have to have them put down a deposit. If something gets broken or damaged, they will accuse you of not being understanding of family. In the interest of compromise, if you want to let them use the house, tell them a few dates that the house is free, and charge them half so you don't feel screwed and they don't feel like they're like everybody else. And also to set an important precedent that for any future family events, there are no more freebies. But it is also completely okay to bill them 100% like you would anybody else. The house was a gift to you. It is no longer theirs to commandeer at their pleasure. It would have been different if the family had also tried to make amends when Grandma reached out. You'd still be entitled to do whatever you want, but at least then they'd have at least any ground to stand on. They're being absolutely ridiculous. If your grandmother had decided to sell the house instead of passing it down, would they be reaching out to that stranger to demand to use it for free? Because that's what you are to them, a stranger. Hell, I'd see their point if you hadn't seen them since you were 6, but your mom and them had been close. But they've cut out your branch of the family tree and now want the fruit from it. No way.